Jumburdo Nimijan, Munum Jimbor and Pieta, Sankar Dorgan Zonto, Shirmado, Tumba de Jan Laki, Jam Sir. Only Janjo Zerni Jangams, Jawar Tukish and Yilla. Jimmy Panzo Jala Sorande, Gunketo Bambo, Reshin Jirlo. Deni Janju Sanhua Chimbo, Manji Gerbodan, Janju Sanhua Chimbo, Puba Chimbo, Yogo Janju Sanhua, Nimbam Dan, Lanji the Jordan de Jishan, Sinderkachir Sordo, Jordan de Tundala Chongram Zata, Sura, Jordan de Dachaka, Dejan Shabayom, Yang, Lendene, Chujir Namjan, Simjan Namla Tambur, Yogo. Yandık bir tambur göğüp çoğundan dendirtiri deyizene semcağımır kupa kiviş çava çoğun. Lobin ergercar ne badam kırtıla ne badam kiviş çavala jikba. Gıdırırka mubadam çara mubama. Mamuba mava tağam çoğun lağmo ki çoğundan dev dağçakıp zopir top yeteti tena yağım. Dondur tambur göğüp, zomur göğüp, şabır göğüp. Yikim rövrü girdir, tardan göğürürüm göğüp, çöbür göğüp. Çoğundan dev dağçakı lidan çoğun vardı. Donda Shapir Gyub Jumdan de Tig Chongam Zato Sura, Tigle Chongam Zato Sura, Teni Kurti Gerlon, Pobadan, Lobadan, Marloba, Gerlon, Gabjazam Jip Jumdan de Landerkachi Sordo, Jumdan de Dachatian Jitanji Kang Jantang, Chuji Namjan Yer, the Raptor Tamber Chualso, Teni Jumdan de Yantur Lobadan, Marloba de Cherny Bate de Gatan, Kandab Jumdan de Vlana Mepa, the Burzobashan, the Long Tamba Gerlon Yer. Tedak tamchi jib chondan de kala verdi, loksu tarmo vjarabdan de chondan de landir kachik surdo, chondan de tegle chongam zato suru, devjan shakba nyangan lende ne lami tse, lami ti na, dakchaki kyan chujir namchon de, jikten ji kama jan dakdab shabar gyo, ti chi lata jenab chondan de, jikten ji kama mamjib pan de semchin dakna lhabi ngarger chan, kevi sawa chongwar dakdak no semji, semdam damba, Kuyunjin Yumbu Ramjin Jan Lagba Lata Wu Denip Jondan de Strong Kirk, Dagamo Chimbo Kodam, Gerlomar, Lobadam, Loba, Gerlomar, Lobadam, Loba, Stone, Chigdan Hanjig, the Stanley Land de Jondan de Calavar de Los, Tarmo Jarrett, Denip Jondan de la Stajan Kodo, Denip Jondan de Giti, Sener Kirk, Damo Kodam. Kodam la Katsarba, Kodam Kyodo, the Katib Janshir Bayons, Mavjot, Laname Bayon, the Borzobashan, the Long Maftan Bakyam, the Mavdever. There was a beer, Tajan Mandigachi, Kodam Anderton Kortam, Long Tambe, Kyotian Long Tandazando. Kodam, Kyundanim Zontis, and Giva, George Gerton Johnson, just Saviki, Tana, Janjusan Wazawa, Jimbo Churma, Kirdo, Lobadam, Loba Geloma, Triggerstone, the Dorian, Kyodan Hanjik, the Tijan Shaba. Dadaqa tadna janjusanwa churmawar gerdo di parodi che parona janjusanwa shobayon zorde te janjabadab jumbayon dobar zobasan dirik badan jazur damba de rosoban jetemdim kiyenderwa kalo gero lana me balhadam marnam girton basan jibjondun de semjin tamjim tona gawa jibshawar jikden damjonun gerde kodama devjan shobadab jumbayon dobar zobasan gesemjin 탐지김 토나가와디 장치와 생화 지동보 대도 지의 라나메 바yon 도버 존도도 롱담바 톰브른 겨로 데네 다친진디마 gerlongma zhengzhenman de nyamde zhongden de jibda ma marmu so nyamde sem so dene zhongden de ji gerlongma zhengzhen sem stoba tigzi jene gerlongma zhengzhenman de ge jib gabsar do zhengzhenma jo mo ber xiao kong de jiber xiao jo ji Sanji Shiva Dongzhe Jia Dongdong Zemchen Ma Churma Vara Kira Do Shanzu Sanhu Rinpa Yongsur Zobra Shiena Jikten Ji Kam Sambo Ji Shiva Devjang Shoba Zha Chumba Yang Dokbar Zoba Sanji Rikpa Dong Jiasu Tamba De Oro Shokman Jikten Jemba Jiyan Darwa Kalo Jira Lana Mepa Ladong Mernam Jirtomba Sanji Chungden De Gozir Shiva Dongzhe Jia Dongzhe Zang Jamsen Ji Shiva Jikten Ji Kam De Shion Jiro Chungden De Devjang Shoba Zha Chumba Yang Dokbar Zoba Gozir Gyartong Yongsur Zobar Jamsen Di Tse Tsadna Khodame Ber Girdo Tine Gerlongma Kirkubdo Godama Gerlongma Yogon Koro Gerlongma Chigtongda Gerlongma Zhengzhenma Koro Yo Gerlongma Vijirtongda Chungden De Laname Bayan Dokbar Zoba Shanjabda Long Tambar Tobne Ngomsar Dharmat Gerade Di Tse Tsizib Jabanda Kwapsardo Chungden Rembar Nambar Rembar Te Lajin Jikten Tagna Tomba Gumjin Ladang Mayim Jobate Gumbo Dagja Namjang Tam Sam Ye Dene Gerhoma Namjang Tsuzib Jaba Sorone Chondan De Lander Kachib Katsardo Chondan De Dagja Labmeti Ki Tsena Chujir Namjang Jikten Ji Kama Jandagdar Tumbra Chua Lagso Dene Chondan De Jibshanzu Sanwa Zongdoba Bab Shermar Doba Chujin Kulorab Kura Senhua Gyatche Bo Tedag Layang Losu So Dene Chondan De Ji Zigma Tagada Shanzu Sanwa Chembo Tedag Talne Lang De Chondan De Lotus Sutra L44 nenderkedi Chujir Namjangda Shabi Shirda Chondan De Dagzagla Kurum Zato Nyamdo Semzo Dene Derkada Namne De Yode Pansan Meba Rigjiva To Maungwatina Chujir Namjangda Shabi Shirda Chondan De Dagzagla Kurwa Zabab Dagzagka Chevsha De Rigjiva De Dagla Chondan De Kibadang Dagni Ji Shungunji Jorada Molumji Chondan De Ji Shingarji Sanke Jab Shongwadang Chondan De Devin Shaba Yongzu Nyang Lende Ba Dagzag Chukchir Jirde Chondan De Ji Chum De Yer Namjangda Zemjan Namla Yikirin Jabar Sarvishmada Sarvar Gyeva Logs Terror Gyeva Semsip Sarvar Gibi Hlata Gyogo Chondan De Yang Jikten Ji Kang Jandagna De Devjan Shaba Chungwadang Shkyoba Ribaram Zabra Gyordo Dene Janzuzan Wazawa Jembo Chondan De Chondan De Tumbar Zixib Jabanda Dagzordo Chondan De Kyola Te Chongja Dagzor Kyonam Nyangan Dene Dagzagar Nama Shanda Marung Tladmi Tiji Tsem Dorde Tamban Dana Shapar Gyo Shibar Namji Shoba Dagbadana Yiktukde Ziba Namla Zubr Gyo Remba Wagla Javar Gyo Ma Rong Flammi Tijina Lobi Lotang Lumbo Dang Shiba Yodang Ngarjerjan Matup Tobran De Shiba Gumba Tagla Rapsim Shang Tsenver Tagjang Guni Ne Yoshid Nyonsur Shodo Ji Longan Tetak Mabran Yer Ro Chag Robro Chagjan Jembar Nam Kemba Tagla Chujan Chad Ngonshi Chigjan Chivjan De Tertang Tagjan Gibra Ye Khtambi Semdang Dansam Ji Kimdang Nurnam Lasim Number Sem Gumba Wember Ravjik Te Dagchag Namlar Karan Deva Dagchag Lanan Dirkadam Chir Nietam Kurta Netam Ba Gerlong Datag Martagjan Dakar Ramzu Raptan Chat Nepatang Kurti Shir Rungam Dordi Shine Se Kurji Wis Chashi Ji Dagchag Namla Shindam Cha Yarbo Donar Yarwa Dang Devjin Yarbu Lombo Dang Jamze Dang Kemdag Dang Gerlong Jandag Zhongda Na Dagchag Namla Marnin Jot Mertag Jianji Tsigyang Jot Zhangzhong Chela Kibe Na Tamchid Dagchag Zobr Gye Detseng Ambi Lo Zhu Jan Dagchag Namla Mobran Geran Dadag Sangyen Gerji Namba Tamchid Zobr Gye Tribu Karwan Jigba Na Marong Jigba Chembo Tse Novijan Khazikchan Gerlong Dagchag Marnin Labjo Ban Jikten Wang La Kiba Yi Shinda Gafchu Zobr Gye Zobi Gojab Gunizam Mdorndar Rapta Shabr Gye Remba Dagchag Lidang Na Chukjang Tonda Nirma Laga Dagjang Shangchip Ton Yerwe Kyoji Khtamjidan Zamba Laga Tembur Gomba Shamman Zara Gerlong Dikchan Tedag Na Hlami Tinam Jongwa Na Chungdan Degi Rapta Kena Tsigla Khane Chapa Dang Jangdang Dagba Mangwa Dang Shirjang Cheba Mangla Ba Chognir Tamchid Zopra Gye Jiktin Gonjib Kapsar Ba Jamba Gyutbi Hlata Na Kurji Wisam Manjig Baram Donda Rapta Shabra Gye Jembandan Dusur Ba zhongqir zhongda gangxiongwa dedag gamda mchine se kyoki xtamba zarbar gi jikten wongbo taba ji kyoki ngagjigu dagjagan tsar nyangande ba jivni ba tegle chongwaram zato sur chokje dagna gangxiagba jikten roma tamchi ki muba nabaram kimba ne dembi tsigna mabar gyodo dambi chupa makaro le dambi chupa makaro le ftrover fshavi legerte pchani pa wo pchani pa.
In the Tibetan version, today's chapter is the 12th chapter. It should be the 13th chapter for Chinese version of the Lotus Sutra. There is a slight difference between these two versions. Next, we will continue studying the Lotus Sutra. Within the Lotus Sutra, first let me speak about some of the merits of the Lotus Sutra or some related stories in this regard. First, let me tell you about a text called the Record of Responses to the Lotus Sutra. In the Record of Responses to the Lotus Sutra, there was a Dharma master called Farin. From his youth, he had tremendous faith in the Lotus Sutra, so he would recite the Lotus Sutra and the Vimalakirti Sutra once each every day. In the biography, it says twice, but twice probably means these two sutras, reciting them continuously for 30 years straight. He continuously recited these two sutras every single day in the mountains. Moreover, generally, he would eat only once every 7 days. And what he ate was things like fruit. His entire life he practiced like this. Furthermore, the dwelling he lived in was extremely tiny. Later, when he manifested parinirvana in the mountains, there were many auspicious signs. In the days approaching his parinirvana, others saw a great elephant enter his thatched hut. Afterwards, he manifested parinirvana and so forth with many auspicious signs. What does this story illustrate? Firstly, he recited 2 sutras each day, which is the Vimalakirti Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. For many of our Dharma friends, perhaps we recited chapter by chapter in the past. If we chant together with the Sangha, of course, sometimes it requires a certain amount of time. This is the first reason. There is also another person in the extensive record of praising the Lotus Sutra. From his childhood, he was completely blind and could not see. His mother was extremely compassionate and studied the Lotus Sutra. She taught him step by step from his childhood. Because he is blind, there was no way for him to read the words, but his mother continuously taught him, teaching him for 13 years. Later, after her child grew up, he could completely recite the Lotus Sutra by heart. In his entire life, he recited it 37,000 times. He completely recited it from his memory, so the perseverance and diligence of ancient people is truly inconceivable. His eyes probably could not be restored, but the blessing power of this sutra is unbelievable, and later enabled his eyes to see something. So when no one was helping to guide him, he still could go out alone by himself. He could even sew his own clothes and so forth. He could do all of these things by himself. Later, when he manifested parinirvana, when this person who recited the Lotus Sutra manifested parinirvana, it seems that no one dared to eat his corpse at that time. Including wild beasts and wolves, none of them dared to eat it. Later, from the tongue area of his skeleton, lotus flowers grew. There were many auspicious signs. We can also understand that through the blessings of the Lotus Sutra like this, even someone born blind could miraculously see things. Now, with artificial intelligence, some people also seem to wear a kind of eyeglasses. Basically, for over 10 years, they had never seen any form whatsoever, but relying on a certain power, they can see some things, although what they see is not very clear. Indeed, there are such cases. So sometimes in our current science, there are also inconceivable phenomena. They can be displayed before people. The inconceivable blessings of Buddhist sutras also exist. Many miraculous things will appear. So as long as we have faith, whether in ancient times or modern times, these miraculous things exist. Actually, regarding our Lotus Sutra now, the related cases and responses to it, if we were to record those things now, just like in the past when I had doctoral students from university record their own spiritual responses, if we recorded them like that, there should be especially many of them. We often hear about those stories which tell how the Lotus Sutra transformed their lives and how it gave them revelations in dreams. Such phenomena are often heard about. It is not only ancient people who had such responses. Now these blessings will definitely be present. These are the two stories I told earlier. One is that if you have faith, even someone born blind can see form. If you have faith, reciting 2 sutras every day is something we should really think about in many ways. Today we are teaching the chapter on perseverance. As for perseverance, actually in Tibetan, it speaks about a kind of joy in upholding. Here, maintain means to uphold. As for perseverance, one should uphold the Lotus Sutra oneself and also exhort others to uphold it. There should be these two levels of meaning. The content we are teaching today means that just now we finished teaching the chapter, the appearance of a jeweled stupa, and also the principle of the dragon girl attaining Buddhahood. At this time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Medicine King and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Great Joy in Expounding, together with 20,000 Bodhisattva followers, they went before the Buddha to make a vow and pledge. What kind of vow did they make? We only wish that the Bhagavat would not be concerned. Do not worry too much. Do not be overly concerned. After you enter parinirvana, we will certainly uphold well and recite this Lotus Sutra. Because when the Buddha was in the world, the Buddha placed great importance on the Lotus Sutra. Actually, it is not only the Buddha. Probably some great masters and eminent monks throughout their entire lives, propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings should be their entire value system. When they depart, they are the same. They are very attached to the spread of the Dharma. Apart from this, perhaps for worldly people, for example, after this person dies, how to distribute the inheritance, how to continue the family lineage, and so forth. There are many related matters. But for us in Buddhism generally, what is most important? It is the propagation of the Dharma. You can see that here too. It say that all these great bodhisattvas did not say, Buddha, after you enter parinirvana, how should your dwellings be handled? What about your retinue? They did not say any of these things. They should say, we will definitely propagate this Dharma well. In the Great Collection Sutra, it also says, though one may give the precious treasures of immeasurable lands, it is not as good as sincerely reciting one verse. Dharma giving is the most supreme, better than food giving. Therefore, the wise should protect the Dharma. So all wise people should protect the true Dharma. Therefore, the wise should protect the Dharma. We often speak of this too. For all wise people, protecting the true Dharma is extremely important. In the future, for us as well, for any person, if they want to repay their guru's kindness after the guru departs, using other methods such as building a stupa for them or doing something else, other things I feel are not very important. What should be done is work for propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings. So for this point, you can see that when the Buddha was approaching parinirvana, these disciples all said, we will propagate this sutra well in the future. At that time, it was also said that the sentient beings of the future evil age have increasingly diminished roots of virtue. Moreover, countless sentient beings are filled with overweening pride. They have not obtained merit, yet act as if they have. Then these sentient beings are attached to gain and offerings. They increase unwholesome roots and increase the roots of much negative karma. They are far from liberation. So the sentient beings of the degenerate age, these beings of the turbid world, seem to have many faults. Their roots of virtue are weak. They have overweening pride. They seek gain and offerings. They do not have many habitual tendencies for liberation either, although teaching these sentient beings is especially difficult, but these bodhisattvas made a vow that we will certainly shoulder what kind of responsibility. The Buddha's power of patience to read and recite. This is also very important. In the future, when we make a vow to propagate the Lotus Sutra, there will certainly be many adverse conditions and obstacles, including in one's own process of propagating the Dharma. There will be many, many unsatisfactory things. At such times, we should bear great patience in the process of propagating the Dharma, in the process of practice, and in the process of living. When there are such difficulties, we read and recite this sutra with the power of patience, and also explain this sutra and make various offerings with flower garlands, necklaces, and so forth, all kinds of offerings to make offerings. Moreover, we do not cherish our own lives. We can say that at the cost of our lives, we protect Buddhism and protect such merit. Among sentient beings in the turbid age, it is indeed especially difficult, but relying on the power of patience, all of us here too, in the future, everyone, whether in practice or in life or in propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings, it is not without difficulties. There will certainly be some. Why? Because the environment we are in is actually an environment of the turbid age. So I often say to some Dharma friends who constantly complain, for example, the upper management is not doing a good job and the people below have difficult personalities. The circumstances and living conditions are not good. And also in all aspects, much resentment and many complaints. And sometimes I say we should learn some acceptance. Accept what? Accept the environment we are in. If the environment we are in is like the pure land of bliss, then we would be justified in complaining. How could the pure land of bliss be like this? We should say, is this not the pure land of bliss? How could there be afflicted beings in the pure land of bliss? How could there be bad treatment, policies, all sorts of things? But the environment we are in is an environment of the turbid age. In an environment of the turbid age, such phenomena exist. This is perfectly normal. So if the people around you are not good, if their character is not good, it is also very normal, including oneself too. Including oneself, one is not necessarily a good person either. We think that we are a good person, but when truly measured by virtue, we are not a good person at all. Even some people feel that they are good. Perhaps it is overweening pride. You see here as well that it mentions overweening pride. Regarding overweening pride, one has not gained any merit at all, yet thinks one has already gained merit. Such wrong views and arrogance. In the Vinaya, there is also the story of a disciple of Upagupta. He thought he had already attained the fruit of arhatship. Every day he did not want to practice and was especially lazy. Upagupta urged him to practice well. He said, I have already attained the fruit of arhatship. All my afflictions are gone. What is there to practice? Later the master said, you are quite similar to a woman nearby who sells alcohol. She is also one with overweening pride. I do not know if you have seen this woman. Then this disciple said, I have not seen her. If you have not seen her, go take a look at her. She is about the same as you. Then his disciple went to where that woman who sells alcohol was, because this woman who sells alcohol was quite good looking. All at once, without having severed his afflictions, he gave rise to desire. The woman who sells alcohol also originally thought she had attained the fruit of arhatship. She too, upon seeing this disciple, again gave rise to desire. At this time they smiled at each other. When that woman smiled, because that master was actually mainly practicing meditation on impurity, when her teeth showed, he began to think of white bones. Then he abided in his realization. At that time he attained the fruit of arhatship. The Vinaya tells it like this. I do not know if the woman attained the fruit of arhatship or not. It is not too clear. Perhaps she also attained it at the same time, because they both smiled at each other. So sometimes with overweening pride we do not even know that. We truly think, I already have clairvoyance. And some people nowadays, they truly think they study very well. Actually, it is all overweening pride. Such beings are not absent in our world either. So in such an evil age, these bodhisattvas also made vows using the power of patience to protect. We too in the future, everyone should not think that. For some of our Dharma friends think too naively. I will go propagate the Dharma, no problem. Then when they go to propagate the Dharma, many things are not as you imagined. Actually, for any undertaking without patience, without a mind of forbearance, truly you cannot carry on. Then, when you hit a wall, you start thinking it will not work and begin complaining, this world is not good, the environment is not good, the treatment is not good, and the people around me are not good. So much resentment. Actually, this kind of attachment to resentment is useless. Indeed, sometimes we need to recognize that sometimes I truly feel it is acceptable. Even when my body is especially unwell, I also feel that relying on such a body of flesh and blood, a contaminated body, all the negative karma from past lives is gathered in this body. So now when there is illness and pain and suffering, it is very normal. When the people around have bad tempers, that is completely normal. As I said yesterday, it is a normal phenomenon for ordinary beings to naturally give rise to anger. This is a normal phenomenon. So sometimes we should not view life as especially wonderful. If you originally thought it was extremely wonderful, but in real life, when it is not so wonderful, you are especially disappointed. So now many young people commit suicide and get depression, including some of our Dharma friends in the study groups. Some are truly due to past life karma, and there is no way around it. But some of them, after studying, they had especially good transformations. They also feel that if they had not studied, perhaps they would not become better as now. Some people, even after studying, but the path they chose was not very good either. This also happens, so we should think carefully. The beings of the degenerate age indeed have relatively more evil people. There is a sutra called the Sutra on Questions about the Fortunes and Misfortunes of Serving the Buddha by Ananda. In it, it says, "The evil people of the final age do not believe and are full of doubts. They are foolish and cannot discern the path. They are extremely foolish. They fundamentally cannot differentiate. They do not have the wisdom of discernment." Such people are very, very numerous. So in this society, we should not view the world around us as extremely wonderful. At this time, among those retinues, there were 500 arhats who had received predictions. They also addressed the Buddha, Bhagavat, "We too want to make vows." You see, 500 arhats, they said, "We too are making vows and pledges." What vows did they make? "We will go to other lands. We are unwilling to stay in the Saha world. The Saha world is too troublesome." Some of our Dharma friends, "I will not go to my hometown. I will propagate the Dharma in other places." So these 500 arhats also said, "We are not very willing to be in the Saha world. Certainly we have no way to liberate the sentient beings in Saha world." There were also 8,000 people of learning and beyond learning who had received predictions. They also arose from their seats, then joined palms toward the Buddha and also made vows. Bhagavat, "We also will go to other places to teach the Lotus Sutra." What is the reason? Because in this Saha world, people are too evil. Their character is too bad. Moreover, these people harbor overweening pride. Actually, many people in the Saha world probably have rather poor character indeed. You see, Buddha Shakyamuni originally chose to liberate sentient beings in the Saha world. Otherwise, many other Buddhas did not choose the Saha world. When we study the chapters 1 and 2 of the biography of Shakyamuni, everyone should be very clear in your hearts. So you see the sentient beings in Saha world, for one thing, they have poor character and overweening pride. Also, the merit is slight and roots of virtue are very weak. And when people's roots of virtue are very weak, all evil habits will exist. If one's roots of virtue are quite good, then these merits will naturally be complete. Moreover, these beings in our Saha world have very strong minds of anger and harm. Their minds of deceit are also especially numerous. Their minds are very insincere. Their minds are especially insincere. For these reasons, many bodhisattvas are unwilling to choose the Saha world. So at that time, there were also such bodhisattvas. What were we just talking about? In the Dharmadram Sutra, there is also much similar content. For example, at that time, Elder Kashyapa also said that, "I would rather become deaf, mute, and disabled, but I am unwilling to have people break the precepts, slander the Dharma, or destroy the Dharma, or even use the Dharma to support themselves and so forth, raising the banner of Buddhism to begin teaching Dharma to others and so forth." The Dharmadram Sutra discusses many things regarding Elder Kashyapa's views on the evil conduct of the degenerate degenerate age. He spoke about many of these behaviors of sentient beings in the Saha world and found them difficult to accept. Like Elder Kashyapa or these Bodhisattvas or the Arhats, the character of people in our world today is truly not very good. So wherever we go, we feel that the people beside us make us angry. They do things improperly, sometimes suddenly lose their temper, or stealing, sexual misconduct, killing, murdering, and so forth. These things are very, very normal because the quality of our entire group and our overall fortune, as well as the faculties in our mind streams, are only this limited. So our understanding of this world is very important. What kind of environment are you in? For example, if you are in an environment where it is very easy to break the law, such as a group of people in prison, and if they hit or scold you at the slightest provocation, you feel this entire group consists of criminals. This is very normal. If we lived in a group of bodhisattvas, all of them having attained the 8th bhumi or first bhumi and above, then it would definitely not be acceptable for them to hit you. If everyone around us were arhats, in such a group we would feel they should act in accordance with the dharma. How could arhats get angry? How could arhats sing loudly? They also occasionally have such habitual tendencies. So regarding of this world nowadays, when there are some people nearby, I increasingly understand it. At this time, the Buddha's maternal aunt, Mahaprajapattai, that is the great loving way bhiksun. The Gotama bhiksun we often speak of is his former maternal aunt. And in that drama of the Buddha biography, the maternal aunt and some of the actors are never changed and still use the same actor when she was young. When the Buddha and Devadatta were young, including Devadatta's mother, when she was young, she was like this too. Even at the very end, she was still so young. His maternal aunt and 6,000 together of many bhiksuns of learning and beyond learning. Next, did you watch it or not? Really? They began to stand up, joined palms together, and continuously gazed at the Bhagavat. They continuously stared without moving their eyes. At this time, the Bhagavat spoke to Gotama. Gotama is the great loving way bhiksun. We often say Gotama, his maternal aunt. He said, "Why are you looking at the Buddha with such an expression? Are you thinking in your mind that all the others have already received predictions of Anuttara, Samyak Sambodhi, but you have not received a prediction? Is it like this?" Then the Buddha told her, because at that time she was continuously focused. Generally, women sometimes also focus intensely on the master giving empowerments and teachings. In the past, some Dharma teachers at our institute said, when women focus intently to the gurus, it is not acceptable. A certain person must be arranged to sit beyond the 13th row. Then the women also said, if it is beyond the 13th row, I will not listen to the teaching anymore. There is such a saying, whether it is correct or not is still unknown. At that time, it was said that all the Śrāvakas in general have already received predictions. So how are you not included in this? If you also want to receive a prediction in future worlds, after 68 billion Buddhas have appeared in the world, you will become a great Dharma teacher. At that time, the great loving way bhiksun, after so many Buddhas have appeared, you will first gradually become a great Dharma teacher. And the 6,000 bhiksuns of learning and beyond learning will also gradually become great Dharma teachers. Like this, gradually you will attain the fruit of a Bodhisattva at the end. After the Bodhisattva path, you will then begin to become Buddhas. Then the Buddha's name will be the Tathagata, pleasing to all beings. The Buddha's name in the prediction here is called the Tathagata, pleasing to all beings. This Buddha will also possess the titles Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well-departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha and Bhagavat, the 10 titles. Gautama, at that time your name will be Buddha, pleasing to all beings. And your 6,000 Bodhisattva followers will also at that time, after you attain Buddhahood, the 6,000 Bodhisattvas will receive predictions in succession. Finally, they will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Here he gave a prediction to the great loving way bhiksun. After that, he began to give predictions to Rahula's mother, Yashodhara. At that time, Yashodhara was also a bhiksun. She was also thinking at that time that the Bhagavat had already given predictions to all the others, but he alone did not give me a prediction or mention my name. This is too unfair. In the show, they acted that Yashodhara appeared somewhat clever, chatty. Her personality was rather. Actually, in the great Vipulya, skillful means sutra, much is discussed about the principles of why the Buddha entered into worldly life. In the sutra on the great Vipulya, skillful means it is also discussed. I have also mentioned before that in our Tibetan Buddhism, there are some teachings, for instance, about why the Buddha manifested as a householder. Worldly people would generally slander that the Buddha was not capable of having children and so forth. In order to dispel such slander, at that time he accepted this life. Moreover, as for Yashodhara, she had also made such wholesome aspirations in the past. In order to fulfill her past aspirations, the Buddha had such a period before attaining enlightenment with Yashodhara. Of course, from the most ultimate perspective, you may have also seen that I translated in the preface to the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, the Buddha is discussed in 3 different vehicles: the common vehicle, the uncommon vehicle, and the Vajra vehicle teachings. So most of us are probably not very clear even about the common vehicle teachings. What exactly was the Buddha like? Now, people all feel that the Buddha was completely an ordinary person who just lived one lifetime. At that time, he was very intelligent, and after 6 years of ascetic practice, he immediately attained complete enlightenment. Of course, such a person, like in the biography of Shakyamuni, one who perfected the provisions of the 6 paramitas over many lifetimes, probably does not have this concept. Actually, it is not like this. So we must understand the teachings of the common vehicle and uncommon vehicle. We must definitely understand them, especially for us Buddhists, of course. What others say does not matter, but as Buddhists should know what kind of identity the Buddha actually had. We cannot think he was exactly the same as ordinary beings, that because he was extremely sharp in faculties and had good fortune, then after practicing for 6 years in India, he immediately became a Buddha. Actually, it is not that simple. People who understand Buddhist principles should all be very clear. It is just that the images he displayed before becoming a Buddha were all for guiding beings. However, in our Tibetan Buddhism, much of the commentary, teachings, and stories about the Buddha should be very similar to the stories in Indian Buddhism. When they filmed the Buddha, they filmed according to Indian stories. Moreover, Indians have a different approach to culture and compared to China or Korea and such places. If they film some Buddhist stories, at that time they are completely especially vulgar. They do not do this. There is a certain reserve, a certain cultivation. Inside there is also some very profound content, directly or indirectly embedded within. So sometimes our understanding of the Buddha from an ordinary person's perspective, there are now many ways to understand the Buddha. For example, if a painter understands from their cultural perspective, if it is an artist, they have their perspective. If they are a philosopher, they view it from a philosopher's perspective. Also, if I am a worldly person, for example, a Qigong master or a spiritual master in all aspects, actually different people can understand the Buddha from different dimensions. They can understand his image. So sometimes we should recognize the Buddha from different angles. This is also very important. Now, Yashodhara was also thinking like this. Among the predictions, the Buddha alone did not mention my name. At this time, the Buddha told Yashodhara, saying, "You also do not need to worry or be sad." Among the dharma of hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of Buddhas in the future, you will practice the Bodhisattva path, then first become a great dharma teacher. You will gradually perfect the Bodhisattva path and the Buddha path. In the future, in a land called Excellent, that is the name of the country, you can become a Buddha there. What will the Buddha's name be? Endowed with thousands of myriads of marks of light. Here the word marks, in our Tibetan, it often has the meaning of banner. Tathagata, Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well-departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. This Buddha's lifespan will be immeasurable asamkhya kalpas. This is the prediction for Yashodhara. At this time, the Bhikshuna Mahaprajapat and the Bhikshuna Yashodhara, together with their followers, were all greatly delighted at this unprecedented occasion. Before the Buddha, they praised in verse, "Bhagavat, you are the guide of humans and devas. You bring peace and happiness to all humans and devas. Today, after we have received our predictions, our minds are very joyful. We are endowed with peace and happiness. Our minds are very joyful. After receiving such predictions, after the bhikkhunas spoke this verse, they addressed the Buddha saying this, Bhagavat, we too will proclaim the teachings in other places. They were also afraid. So generally many people who around the Buddha, whether bodhisattvas, arhats or bhikkhunas, they all find teaching the Dharma in the Saha world indeed a bit fearful and difficult. So many are like this. So many of our Dharma friends here will certainly make vows in the future. We also will not be here. We will be in other places in the future. This way we have a good excuse. In the future, in other lands, we will proclaim the Lotus Sutra. They also made vows like this. At this time, the Bhagavat saw that because these bodhisattvas and some individual bodhisattvas and individual arhats earlier, they were all willing to go to other places to propagate the Dharma. At this time, the Bhagavat saw extremely many. 800,000 billion nayutas of bodhisattvas. The meaning is that there were very, very many bodhisattvas. At that time, there were very many such bodhisattvas. They were all non-retrogressing. Avaivartika means non-retrogressing. These bodhisattvas had all attained the fruit of non-retrogression. They turned the wheel of the dharma of non-retrogression. They had attained dharans such as the dharan of the dharma, the dharan of upholding, and the dharan of non-forgetting. These bodhisattvas also arose from their seats, went before the Buddha, joined palms with one mind, and then thought in their minds like this. If the Bhagavat requests us to propagate the Lotus Sutra, if we act according to the Buddha's words and follow his teachings, we should extensively proclaim this Lotus Sutra. While they were thinking like this, if the Buddha tells us to propagate this Dharma, we should follow his teachings and extensively proclaim this Dharma. Then they also silently thought. They thought in their minds that they have not seen the Buddha instruct us, because at the beginning they thought if the Buddha requires us to propagate the Lotus Sutra in the Saha world, because of many bodhisattvas and arhats were unwilling to propagate it in this world, if the Buddha tells us, we will see what to do. We should still follow his teachings. Then they also thought, the Buddha seems not to have told us or commanded us. So what should we do now? Should we make vows ourselves or wait for the Buddha to speak? Continuously they were thinking like this in their minds. At this time, these bodhisattvas very respectfully followed the Buddha's intent, and moreover, they thought that they had also made vows in the past to propagate this sutra or to propagate the Buddha Dharma. After these circumstances came together, before the Buddha they began to make a lion's roar. They made this vow. So at that time, among the Buddha's retinue, actually, sometimes we can also see, for example, when the Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma, each being's vows are all different. For any spiritual guide, when they are in the human world, it is also the same when they turn the wheel of Dharma. Each Buddhist, according to their different circumstances, may also make different vows. Some make especially great vows, some make ordinary vows, some even in this process give rise to some evil thoughts. In the end, they may possibly head toward other paths. This is very normal. So in these stories about the Buddha, we can also see much about life. At this time, they made vows together. Bhagavat, after the Tathagata enters parinirvana in the future, we can travel back and forth to the various lands of the 10 directions. We will go back and forth to the various worlds of the 10 directions. In order to benefit these beings, we will cause sentient beings to copy this sutra and recite this sutra, and to explain the Lotus Sutra, and to practice it accordingly. Truly, using correct mindfulness and awareness to meditate, all these are due to the Buddha's power. We only pray that the Bhagavat, even in distant places, will always protect us and always guard us. Such vows are still very important. When some people around us do not dare to make vows, we should still make this comparatively strong vow. You see here, many people are unwilling to propagate the Dharma in this Saha world, yet they are still willing to propagate in the worlds of the 10 directions. traditions, especially in this Saha world, they also did not reject it. In wholesome deeds, their minds will not become weary or retreat. Their aspiration is firm and strong, far from weakness. As practitioners, first, regarding wholesome dharma, our will should be firm. We should not be timid or retreat. Moreover, we must definitely stay far from fragile and weak states of mind. This is very important. Actually, the strength of a person's character still depends on oneself. If one is especially strong, even if something is especially difficult, one can face it. Many problems can be resolved. Therefore, let us also think about it. These bodhisattvas are truly very great and remarkable. Although the beings of the surrounding worlds do not dare to vow to propagate the Dharma throughout all 10 directions, but these bodhisattvas, however, no matter what they encounter, are all willing to follow the teachings and put them into practice, and are all able to propagate such Dharma. At this time, these bodhisattvas all spoke these verses with one voice. In the following verses, we should understand that although they are the collective vows of so many bodhisattvas, at the same time it also discusses many aspects of our daily lives, whether in propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings or in our regular practice, many of the situations we encounter. I feel that they are described in a very true-to-life way. You can all take a look when the time comes. First, this verse here, we only wish that the Buddha would not have many considerations. You should be at ease. After your parinirvana, in our frightening world of the 5 defilements, we, these disciples, will certainly extensively proclaim the Lotus Sutra. First, after the Buddha's parinirvana, there is a commitment the world has terror. You see, terrorism, just in our current time, I saw a statistic today, just in 1 year, 1,250,000 people died on highways worldwide. So our world is still very frightening. As for those killed by terrorism a while ago, I also discussed this on Weibo. Sometimes truly our world is still very frightening. We hear much bad news. If some of our family members die, it is very normal. Among so many people, if several hundred people die, if 1 or 2 people die, it is very normal. Moreover, here, like I have been to Africa and Cambodia before, since then, I feel the poverty in some of our Asian countries now is nothing. In some of their places, it is truly like the hungry ghost realm. So in such a world, here in the sutras, it also continuously says that in the frightening evil age, these bodhisattvas also know that these environments are not very wonderful, not very good. But within this, we will still propagate such Mahayana wondrous Dharma. Actually, many people now are all in a state of insecurity. The other day, I even said that, including now, not mentioning other terrorism, only the conflicts between nations, many people, such as those with slightly higher education, are now especially worried about artificial intelligence. Many people have lost their jobs, because now when you go to some hotels, in some places, hotels are entirely run by artificial intelligence. When you enter, it is also a robot that guides you. Registration is also guided by a robot. Then in the room, all the prompts and reports are all entirely given by the artificial intelligence. In an entire hotel, you basically cannot see any person at all. This situation also exists. So in the future, including teachers, lawyers, translators, doctors, many professions are all replaced by AI. In the past, after the Industrial Revolution emerged, because machines already replaced much external work, including physical labor for workers and farmers, originally building a road was so difficult. Now with excavators and bulldozers coming, in a very short period of time, a machine can finish the work that would normally require hundreds of people. Now, once artificial intelligence appears, it becomes mental labor, and with the rise of big data, many things have already been replaced by it. After this replacement, in the future, perhaps educated people may lose their jobs. Once many resources are concentrated in the hands of certain people, certain groups, certain collectives, at that time, some people may consider that what will happen to people in another 20 or 30 years? What will the entire human race become? At that time, will they be able to have food to eat? Will they be able to continue living normally? Many people are very worried. Perhaps it is worrying about nothing. It is not that serious. But perhaps truly this world now is changing especially rapidly. So sometimes lacking a sense of security is also understandable, is also a normal phenomenon. I see here In the frightening evil age, the terror in our world is indeed also present. Although we do not see terrorists beside us holding knives to harm us, actually there are many such circumstances. Those without wisdom will verbally abuse and revile us, moreover using knives, staves, and so forth, using these weapons to begin stabbing or harming us. At this time, these bodhisattvas said we should also patiently endure well. We should be able to forbear. In the turbid age, there will be individual monks with wrong knowledge and views, their minds filled with deceit. They have not obtained anything, yet think they have obtained it. Their pride and conceit completely fill their entire minds. Extremely deceitful. In the Bequeathed Teaching Sutra, it says, "A deceitful mind is contrary to the path." A deceitful mind is completely contrary to our true path. Therefore, one should be straightforward in mind. As long as there are some lies or a deceitful state of mind, it is completely contrary to the true path. In the degenerate age, there are especially many people with wrong knowledge and views. Moreover, some of them dwell in forest retreats, some are in quiet places, they think they are in seclusion, they pretend to dwell in quiet places, wearing patched robes and discarded garments. In some quiet places, they think they are practicing the true path. Then they begin to look down upon worldly people, despising those who teach the Lotus Sutra or those who propagate it. They think, I am a practitioner, I wear discarded garments. Then they begin to slander these people. So how do they slander? They say, in order to obtain some gain and offerings, they teach Dharma to lay people. Moreover, in order to receive worldly respect, they act like arhats endowed with the 6 supernatural powers. Before others, they pretend to be especially extraordinary. In the degenerate age, indeed, there are some people, which is including some Dharma teachers, who outwardly seem especially to be pretending they are practitioners, but inwardly they have absolutely no faith in the Dharma at all, no realization whatsoever. They even often use jealousy to revile and attack. Such phenomena also exist. Many people can see and discern this, especially in different levels of society. What do they say? They say that these people harbor evil intentions. They constantly think about worldly, mundane matters. They pretend to dwell in such quiet places as forest retreats. Then they begin to point out our faults. They will slander us and point out our faults. Toward bodhisattvas or those who propagate the Lotus Sutra, they also say that these monks, for the sake of gain and offerings, what they teach are the treatises of non-Buddhists. Those who teach the Lotus Sutra often say, this way of teaching is non-Buddhist. If even one word is changed, it is a non-Buddhist teaching, and so forth. Indeed, there are truly many like this. Actually, they do not know either. What they teach also consists of many different versions compiled by these people. But verbally, they will often say this. They also say this is a sutra composed by oneself, enticing worldly people seeking fame and gain. Such principles they consider to be sutras and so forth. In different levels, they will also speak this way. Moreover, in large assemblies as well, in order to destroy those who propagate the Lotus Sutra, to slander them, they go to kings, ministers, Brahmins, householders, and also among monks to slander each other. They say those who propagate the Mahayana Lotus Sutra, some also work through government connections. Indeed, these things happen in the degenerate age. This is unreasonable. Then they report to the government. Actually, some Buddhists, especially those wearing monastic robes, because they fear that their own gain and offerings will be harmed, at this time they say such things. The Buddha seems to have already predicted long ago that there would be such things. There are also other monks who slander us, saying that these are people with wrong knowledge and views, those who propagate non-Buddhist treatises. At this time the Buddha told these bodhisattvas, no, it was not the Buddha. At that time those bodhisattvas said, at such a time, because we respect Buddhism, we should endure all these things. The disparaging words that they just spoke to us, and they will use sarcastic language saying, you are all Buddhas. Using mocking and sarcastic language said that you are all Buddhas and so forth. Such contemptuous words we will all completely endure. Last year when I was teaching the Lotus Sutra, many people spoke all kinds of words. At that time I also thought of these words. When these are spoken, it is also very normal. Moreover, ourselves and some of our Dharma friends all said, should we refute them? Should we write to them? At that time I also made a statement, no one should use this method to refute others' views, because at that time the participants were also very numerous. Some people later seemed to feel that when the other side had no voice, then they ran over again and began listening to the teachings now. including among today's people too. Those who attacked me at that time, now pretending to be especially respectful, they are still listening to the teachings. Actually, people are sometimes truly very bad, looking at which side is higher, which side is lower. If this side is higher, they stand on this side. If this side is more convenient, they quietly run to this side and begin standing, pretending not to know what they did. But sometimes we are not unaware either. Moreover, these phenomena will certainly appear. I saw in the records of the Lotus Sutra transmission that it says, in the past there was a monastic who at that time propagated what was called the 3 stages Buddha Dharma. The 3 stages Buddha Dharma seems to have been created by someone during the Sui dynasty. It lasted in China for about 300 years. It was an organization, moreover. It was a very frightening organization. For example, they said one could not study Mahayana Dharma. If one studied Mahayana Dharma, one would fall into the great hells. One could not recite Amitabha Buddha. If one recited Amitabha Buddha, one would also fall into the hells. They only recited Bodhisattva, Ksitigarbha. These practitioners of the 3 stages Buddha Dharma all wore discarded garments and also ate only 1 meal at midday. They did many things that outwardly seemed acceptable. The so-called 3 stages means the Buddha's teachings are divided into 3 stages. The first is the period of the true Dharma. The second is the period of the semblance Dharma. The third is the period of the degenerate Dharma. In the period of the degenerate Dharma, there is only outward form. Apart from that, there is nothing. Mahayana Buddha Dharma does not exist. At that time they said whoever recited the Lotus Sutra would definitely fall into the hells. They spoke extremely frighteningly, because many people believed this. Later, those who originally recited the Lotus Sutra all gave it up. They began to abandon it, burning the Dharma texts. Various situations occurred. Later there was a woman, a lay practitioner, who once attended a teaching on the 3 stages Buddha Dharma. When that Dharma teacher was teaching before an audience of over 10,000 people, he was expounding their so-called 3 stages Buddha Dharma. At that moment, this woman thought to herself, if what he is teaching is wrong Dharma, this is not what the true Buddha Dharma is. And if the merit of the Lotus Sutra is truly inconceivable, let this person immediately contract some strange illness. She made such an aspiration in her mind. When she thought like this, at that time on the Dharma throne, he could not speak. At the same time, other propagators of the 3 stages Buddha Dharma, which is the 5 meditation masters, could not teach the Dharma anymore. They were all completely like mutes. For many days they were simply unable to speak. Later, this sect gradually weakened and gradually died out. Actually, looking at history, whether it is the Lotus Sutra or whatever, including now, perhaps some people with wrong views have many students. Moreover, their power is also very strong. You see, at that time, when over 10,000 people gathered together, now in the internet age, it will be even more people. Moreover, many people now do not have very deep wisdom either. As long as there is a person who is especially eloquent, who speaks in different settings, then many people will also believe it. They will also follow what others say. So at such times, sometimes we Buddhists also need wisdom. It is not about which is correct or which is false, but at least one should have a firm conviction. Without a firm conviction being blown about by the wind, it is especially pitiful. Sometimes when you see it truly, just now, why are so many people afraid to propagate the Buddha Dharma in the Saha world? They all want to run to other worlds. Some of our Dharma friends also often say, alas, how could one want to propagate Dharma in this world? No, I will still recite my own mantras. In a quiet mountain, sitting in my forest retreat is better. Otherwise, the beings in this turbid world are truly difficult to transform. This point I also especially believe. If you have not been in contact, it seems everyone is all smiles. Very good. Once you are in contact, sometimes it is also possibly very frightening. So at this time, everyone should also put on the armor of patience. I won't say much more. There are still 5 minutes left. So it says here that in this turbid kalpa, in this evil world, there are many terrors, including evil maras and malevolent spirits who enter into the bodies of these monks and practitioners and then revile, slander, and insult Dharma teachers who propagate the Lotus Sutra. At that time, these bodhisattvas said, we should put on the armor of patience because we respect and have faith in the Buddha. For the sake of propagating this Dharma, all these difficulties should be endured. We in the future should also be like this. If in our minds we have a very firm conviction to propagate the Dharma, then all these things in the world, including others' rumors, slander, illness, all these various things, for such a person are not difficult matters. So we must definitely endure. We do not cherish our own lives. We only cherish the unsurpassed wondrous path of the Lotus Sutra. We, in future worlds, will definitely protect the Lotus Sutra that the Buddha entrusted and spoke of. The Buddha places such importance on it. So we should also make vows. Everyone should protect what the Buddha has entrusted. A couple days ago on Weibo, I said, whoever is willing to participate with the Lotus Sutra, whether liking, reading, listening, receiving, teaching it to others, or even making long-term offerings, as long as one of these things is acceptable, everyone like it. Today I looked, I still have 5 days' time. At our Larunga, perhaps many people did not participate. I do not know how it is. But roughly I looked, over 21,000 people, still acceptable. The views are comparatively many, 545,000. Weibo normally basically has this kind of response. Those who viewed it, it is still not particularly many. Sometimes when some worldly inspirational messages are posted, there are several million, because many people go on Weibo and WeChat, and those without faith do not pay attention on this. But I think even if it is just to plant a wholesome root, making such vows together with everyone is also very good. A while ago, there were also various other reasons. There are several reasons. I will also tell everyone at the end. Whether you like it or make vows collectively, now looking at it, this is a very simple matter. But perhaps in the future, several millions of years later, perhaps through this small thought and aspiration, for us it is also a very good auspicious connection. The Bhagavat said at that time, you should know that the monks of the turbid world do not know the Buddha's skillful means, the definitive and non-definitive. Like the beings of the turbid world, they truly know nothing. They fundamentally cannot teach Dharma according to beings' interests and faculties. They only revile with harsh words. Moreover, their attitude is also especially bad, scowling with sad and bitter faces like that. Some manifest wrathful forms, which is especially convenient. Repeatedly through various methods, they expel these monks from the Sangha. They are distanced from stupas and monasteries. Such evil deeds are especially numerous. At that time, one should remember the Buddha's admonitions and instructions. That is to say, the Buddha's teachings. One should be able to patiently endure these matters above. When such things appear in our Sangha, we should know the Buddha already said this long ago. We should patiently endure. Patience is very good. Actually, for practitioners, truly, if at all times one can patiently endure, everything is very meaningful. Whether in villages or in towns, if there are those who seek the Lotus Sutra, we must definitely think of every way to go there to teach the Lotus Sutra that the Buddha entrusted. We also make such vows. In the future, even if it is just one person, whoever it is, as long as the circumstances are complete, I hope you will also make good vows. Because if we speak like this for a long time, we can say this circumstance also suddenly comes and suddenly disappears. One day you will also know. Originally, our collective study of the Lotus Sutra was like a dream. But at this time, if we made some vows, then in life after life we will have formed a wholesome connection. So at that time, these bodhisattvas said, no matter where it is, as long as there are those who seek the Dharma, we will teach it. We bodhisattvas are messengers of the Buddha. No matter where it is, we will fearlessly teach the Buddha Dharma well. May the Buddha, whether you manifest parinirvana or however you are, you should be at ease, because when the Buddha was approaching parinirvana, the bodhisattvas made these vows. It is like this. So at that time, the bodhisattvas said, we make such vows before the Bhagavat and the Buddhas of the 10 directions. These vows, Buddha, you should completely understand. We often say Lama Kien, Lama Kien. Here it is the Buddha knows. The Buddha knows is Sangye Kien. We often, for example, if Guru Rinpoche knows, it is Guru Rinpoche Kien. If the Guru knows, it is Lama Kien. Here the Buddha knows. Buddha, you know our minds. You will bless us. You are very clear about our vows. You understand me best. Before the Bhagavat, before the Buddhas of the 10 directions, today we also make such vows. Just now, was it not mentioned earlier? when we go everywhere to propagate, the Buddha in distant places should bless us and protect us. As Buddhists, we often have this each time we use, including with our very devout minds. In our commentary on the 7-line prayer, it also says, Mipham Rinpoche said, if we are especially moved, if our emotions are especially stirred with such a state of mind, if we make aspirations and pray, the Buddha will immediately descend to bless you. So when we make vows too, I hope everyone should do so before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, especially in a moment when we recite the King of Aspiration prayers. Everyone should also make good aspirations. Making aspirations is extremely important. Throughout life after life, it is indeed also very important. So every day I also, while reciting the King of Aspiration prayers, hold a prayer wheel. Then when they have some receptions, I recite the King of Aspiration prayers in my mouth, reluctant to stop, in my hand, holding the prayer wheel, also reluctant to stop. When those people for reception come, I now seem still able. That day I practiced, trying not to interrupt the King of Aspiration prayers in my mouth, trying not to interrupt the prayer wheel in my hand. When receiving them, I also use my left hand. After receiving them, after finishing the King of Aspiration prayers, this hand hurts and that hand hurts. But in my mind, it seems that day was still meaningful. I have this feeling. When we make aspirations, I hope we also recite the King of Aspiration prayers. It is best to recite it out loud. There is nothing to be reluctant about. Some are always reluctant to make a sound. If you have a prayer wheel in our liturgies before and after, we often request the use of prayer wheels. The Dharma friends at our institute are slightly better, but some continuously, perhaps they cannot afford a prayer wheel. For a very long time, they continuously do not use prayer wheels, including some of our Dharma friends online. From my perception, you also do not use prayer wheels. Your steadfast faith is very great. I have already mentioned it, at least probably not even 10 times. I have said it many times. If a beggar kept asking like this repeatedly, perhaps a kind-hearted person would give 1 penny. So I have told you to use prayer wheels so many times. Then other things, it goes without saying, following the teachings. This is completely your own affair. Now, buying a prayer wheel online is so simple. When you recite the King of Aspiration prayers, use a prayer wheel. Of course, in some settings it may not be very convenient, and I do not require it here. For example, in monasteries of Han Chinese Buddhism, if using a prayer wheel is not very convenient, I do not require this. If in your home, because of special family circumstances, everyone is of another religion or has another identity, if holding a prayer wheel is a bit inconvenient, I also do not require it. But some are obviously convenient. Why not use a prayer wheel? So today I have a slight opinion. So I hope when we make aspirations, we all think before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, before Buddha Shakyamuni. Today we also make aspirations. Throughout life after life, to propagate well these Mahayana Sutras, primarily the Lotus Sutra, may the Buddha, the Dharma protectors, and our lineage masters bless us abundantly. If our minds are capable, then everything will be easily resolved. So let us all make aspirations together.
Sonandai tamsa thobaya tonani dhamma pasi jirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen droja
Bandangara badna sadarda Bandangara badna sadarda Bandangara badma sadarda